What if I told you Kendrick Lamar didn't just win a rap battle? He executed a 5-year master plan to dethrone Drake, expose J. Cole, and crown his own successor as hip-hop's next king. While everyone thought Kendrick went silent, he was moving pieces on a chessboard nobody else could even see. Baby Keem's Casino album dropping February 20th? That wasn't just a release, that was checkmate. And Drake really thought dropping Iceman after this would save him? Before we unpack this, subscribe and show support with a like. You're not ready for what's ahead. Baby Keem, Kendrick's cousin and protege, dropped his album Casino on February 20, 2026, featuring Kendrick on the track Good Flirts. The release came strategically positioned after Kendrick's Grammy sweep for GNX and right before Drake's planned Iceman comeback. Keem also released the Boo Man documentary showcasing his Section 8 upbringing and family trauma. Drake really picked the worst time to try reclaiming his throne. Now let's examine the receipts that prove this wasn't luck, it was calculated warfare. Let me take you through the exact moments that reveal this master plan. In Kendrick's feature on Good Flirts, he raps, "I smell pussy. Is it fake? Is it love? Probably. Who gon' stop me?" When I first heard that line, I was like, wait, this isn't just a flex, this is a declaration. Kendrick's literally asking who's brave enough to challenge him after he systematically destroyed Drake's credibility. On Not Like Us, Kendrick delivered what became his kill shot, exposing Drake's cultural appropriation and questioning his authenticity through surgical lyrical precision. Every bar was documented evidence in hip-hop's courtroom. That wasn't a diss track, that was a legal brief. Then came Watch the Party Die, where Kendrick positioned himself as hip-hop's moral authority, cleansing the entire industry of frauds and pretenders. The song wasn't aimed at one person, it was aimed at everyone who built careers on manufactured images and industry politics. In the Boo Man documentary, we see Keem's grandfather on camera smoking crack, 7 family members crammed into one bedroom, the raw reality of generational poverty and gang violence. When I watched this, I had to pause it multiple times. This isn't marketing, this is armor. Kendrick made sure nobody could ever call Keem an industry plan again. That documentary is the authenticity certificate Drake could never produce. J. Cole's The Fall Off received mixed reviews upon release, with critics noting it felt safe compared to the cultural moment. One review stated the album lacks the urgency the times demand. Bro really thought playing it safe would preserve his legacy while Kendrick was reshaping the entire landscape. Now, here's what most people missed. The timing of everything reveals the strategy. Kendrick released Family Ties with Baby Keem back in 2021, publicly declaring succession while everyone dismissed Keem as riding coattails. That wasn't nepotism, that was Kendrick documenting everyone's positions. Then, Kendrick went completely dark for 2022 and 2023 after Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. The industry speculated he lost his edge. Drake and Cole filled the vacuum. But check this out. Kendrick wasn't resting. He was watching, documenting, preparing. Every move his competitors made, every interview they gave, every flex they posted, Kendrick was building a case file.
The Drake annihilation in 2024 wasn't spontaneous beef. It was the execution of documented evidence. Kendrick had years of receipts showing Drake's accent shifting, cultural tourism, and industry manipulation. When Not Like Us dropped, it wasn't a response, it was a pre-planned demolition using evidence collected during his silence. So Drake did all this 3 years after Kendrick started positioning Keem? That's terrible timing, bruh. Any strategist would have seen this coming, but Drake doesn't have real advisors, he has yes men. And here's the West Coast connection nobody's talking about. Kendrick brought Too Short onto Casino, linking Keem directly to Bay Area legend status. This isn't just featuring artists, this is building a lineage. Dr. Dre to Kendrick to Keem. That's not a feature list, that's a family tree of West Coast authenticity. Now let's decode what's really happening in these bars. When Kendrick says, "I smell pussy" on Good Flirts, that word choice is surgical. In hip-hop, pussy means cowardice, fakeness, lack of authenticity. But Kendrick adds, "Is it fake? Is it love? Probably." He's saying even when these frauds try to show love, it's manufactured. That's a triple-layer diss disguised as a casual bar. And check the delivery. Kendrick's tone is bored when he says probably, like he's not even concerned enough to fully address. That's the ultimate disrespect, treating your opposition like they're not worth the energy to fully address. If Drake had half a brain, he would have noticed this before planning Iceman. The "who gonna stop me" line hits different when you realize Kendrick's asking this after already destroying Drake, exposing Cole's cowardice, and sweeping the Grammys. He's not asking because he's worried, he's asking because he knows nobody can. That's not a question, that's a dare. Now look at the Casino album title itself. 12 tracks, no filler. In a casino, the house always wins. Kendrick is the house. Drake and Cole were gambling, betting on industry politics and playing it safe. Kendrick was counting cards, manipulating the system, knowing every outcome. That's why the album is exactly 12 tracks, no wasted moves, every song is a calculated strike. The Budaman documentary dropping before the album, that's not standard rollout procedure. That's Kendrick ensuring the narrative is locked before anyone can spin it. By the time Casino released, Keem's authenticity was already documented, verified, and undeniable. Drake thought that appendix bar was clever, but Keem's whole life story is now public record. And Drake really didn't catch that? That's embarrassing. Complex reported that Baby Keem's Casino represents a new era of West Coast sound, praising the unconventional production and Kendrick's strategic feature placement. But Hot New Hip Hop took it further, calling the album Kendrick's succession plan in action, noting how the release timing strategically blocks Drake's comeback narrative. XXL covered the Budaman documentary extensively, with one writer stating, "This isn't just background content, this is Keem's hood pass being verified in 4K. They connected the documentary's release to Kendrick's long game strategy of eliminating the industry-planned accusations before they could gain traction. Now, some people are saying this is all a coincidence, that Kendrick isn't that calculated, that we're reading too much into release dates and features. Here's why that doesn't hold up. Remember those interview quotes from earlier? Remember the lyrical precision in Not Like Us? Remember the timeline we just mapped out? You don't accidentally time an album release perfectly between your protege's Grammy sweep and your rival's comeback attempt. That's not luck, that's strategy. The media trying to spin this as separate events, but the receipts don't lie. When you connect the dots from Family Ties in 2021 to Casino in 2026, you see a perfectly executed 5-year plan. If you still think this is random after all this evidence, you're just biased toward the old guard that's getting replaced. Here's what nobody in the mainstream media is saying. This isn't about rap beef or album sales. This is about Kendrick Lamar systematically dismantling and rebuilding hip-hop's power structure to correct a historical injustice against West Coast authenticity. The industry has been biased against the West Coast since Tupac's death. After Tupac was killed, the power shifted to the East Coast, then to the South with Atlanta's trap dominance, then to Canada with Drake's pop rap takeover. The West Coast, the birthplace of gangster rap, the home of Dr. Dre, Snoop, and Kendrick himself, got sidelined in its own culture. Kendrick's lyric of "what I learned is niggas don't like the West Coast and I'm fine with it, I'll push the line with it, pick them off one at a time with it," isn't paranoia. It's a war declaration backed by historical evidence. Look at how the industry treated West Coast artists for 2 decades. Undervalued, overlooked, dismissed as too regional, while Atlanta and Toronto artists got pushed as universal. Remember that timeline we connected earlier? Here's the real reason Kendrick went silent for 2 years. He was studying the industry's power structure, identifying who controlled the narrative, and planning how to dismantle it. Drake represented the ultimate corruption, a Canadian artist who used ghostwriters, industry politics, and cultural appropriation to dominate a genre he had no authentic connection to. Drake is the puppet, and the major labels pulling strings needed him to succeed because he was controllable, marketable, safe. J. Cole represented the false alternative, the conscious rapper who claimed Big 3 status but apologized mid-war, exposing his lack of conviction. Cole is repeating the same mistakes that ended previous generations' careers, trying to stay neutral in a culture war, attempting to please everyone, standing for nothing. We've seen this before. Cole is on the losing side of history. That booming documentary revealing Keem's grandfather smoking crack on camera, that's not just background. That's Kendrick showing the industry what real authenticity looks like. Drake could never produce that level of raw truth because his whole persona is manufactured. His Toronto accent shifts depending on who he's collaborating with. His started from the bottom narrative got exposed as cap. He was a child actor on Degrassi. His street credibility is borrowed from artists he signs and controls. Kendrick positioned Keem as the bait to expose all this.
When critics called Keem trash, they revealed their bias against unconventional West Coast sound. When industry figures ignored Keem, they showed their loyalty to Drake and Cole's establishment. When fans questioned Keem's talent, Kendrick let him prove himself with the melodic blue and now Casino. Every doubt, every criticism, every dismissal, Kendrick documented it all. This is Kendrick's desperate attempt to... Wait, no. This is Drake and Cole's desperate attempt to stay relevant in an era that's moved past them. Kendrick represents the new guard, artists who prioritize authenticity over algorithm, storytelling over TikTok virality, legacy over streaming numbers. The culture is done with frauds, and Kendrick is leading the purge. Casino's success isn't just about Keem's career, it's vindication of Kendrick's judgment. If Keem succeeds, Kendrick becomes the kingmaker, who correctly identified and elevated the next generation. If Keem somehow fails, Kendrick still won the Drake War, still swept the Grammys, still reshaped hip-hop's moral center. It's a no-lose scenario because Kendrick is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
And that's the truth they won't tell you. This moment marks the end of hip-hop's fraudulent era and the beginning of the authenticity renaissance. Kendrick isn't just battling opponents, he's cleansing the culture. So what happens next? Let me give you 3 scenarios, and spoiler alert, Kendrick wins in all of them. Here's what's most likely to happen. Kendrick doesn't respond to Drake's Iceman at all, complete radio silence. And that silence is going to destroy Drake more than any diss track could. When Kendrick doesn't engage, Drake is going to look desperate, screaming into the void. He'll drop Iceman, it'll get initial streams from his band phase, but the cultural conversation will stay focused on Keem's Casino and Kendrick's Grammy dominance. Drake will try to escalate, maybe shots on Instagram, maybe interviews claiming victory, but nobody's going to care. The industry will move on. New artists will emerge. The Big Three narrative will officially die, replaced by the correct lineage, Dr. Dre to Kendrick to Baby Keem. Drake will become what J. Cole already is, a cautionary tale about what happens when you choose industry politics over authenticity. Mark my words, by summer 2026, Drake's Iceman will be forgotten, while Casino tracks are still in rotation. The silence is going to hurt Drake more than Not Like Us did, because it confirms what Kendrick already proved. Drake isn't worth the energy anymore. Now, if Kendrick does decide to respond to Iceman, Drake is going to get obliterated in ways that make Not Like Us look like a warm-up. Kendrick has been documenting Drake's moves for 5 years. He's got receipts we haven't even seen yet. If Drake forces Kendrick's hand, we're going to witness the most one-sided lyrical execution in hip-hop history. Drake is not ready for what's coming if Kendrick takes this seriously. We saw what Kendrick did to Drake with Not Like Us, exposed his cultural appropriation, questioned his authenticity, destroyed his untouchable image. That was Kendrick at 70% effort. If Kendrick goes to 100%, Drake's career is over. Not damaged, over. And here's the kicker. Even in this scenario, Baby Keem still wins, because while Drake is getting destroyed by Kendrick, Casino continues dominating the conversation. Keem becomes the artist who dropped a classic album during hip-hop's biggest war and stayed above the drama. That's legendary positioning. Looking at the bigger picture, this moment is going to be remembered as the cultural turning point when hip-hop rejected manufactured artists and reclaimed authenticity. 5 years from now, people will look back at February 2026 as when Drake's relevance died and the West Coast begins the Renaissance. Music historians will study Kendrick's 5-year strategy as the greatest long-game execution in hip-hop history. Baby Keem will be established as a generational talent who survived the industry plant accusations through documented authenticity. J. Cole will be the what-could-have-been footnote, the guy who had the talent but lacked the conviction to matter when it counted. His fall-off mixed reviews will be seen as the moment he fell off the conversation entirely. The industry itself will shift. Labels will stop pushing fraudulent narratives because Kendrick proved that authenticity wins. New artists will study the Boo Man documentary as a blueprint for how to establish credibility. The Big Three will be correctly rewritten as Dre, Kendrick, Keem, a lineage instead of 3 unconnected peers. This is going to be the moment everyone remembers as when hip-hop's power structure got corrected. Drake is watching the culture move on without him, and there's nothing he can do about it. The West Coast is back, and Kendrick orchestrated the entire comeback. Whatever happens, one thing's clear. Drake and Cole already lost. Kendrick won the moment he started playing this game 5 years ago.
Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed digging into the real details, show some love with a like and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Turn on the bell and click one of the videos here. The next reveal is worth your time.